Hi, how are you guys doing today? I hope you're having a really good day today. I want to talk about some things that could be improved on Hinderers. Now, I really like Hinderers. They are my current favorite knife for EDC and also collecting. Now, the things that could be improved upon, I want to talk about lock bar tension, metal shavings and washers, finish on hardware such as scratches and consistency, and some tolerances. Now Rick, if you're watching this, I really like your knife designs and I love your customs. There are just a few things that could be improved, like tolerances and attention to detail. Now, being prior military, one thing that was always drilled into my head was attention to detail. So I can't help myself but to pay attention to every little detail. Now, first off, let's talk about the metal in the Teflon washers. You can see on the left washer there's a large or long piece of a metal shaving, and on the right washer there's a little tiny metal shaving. Now, these is the least case scenario. I've gotten Teflon washers with much more metal shavings in here. Now, I'm concerned about this because Teflon washers do not scratch the blade. It does not cause any wear. But when you add steel metal shavings into the mix, it causes scratches and wear into the blade every time you open the knife. I'm not sure how these shavings get in there, but if you could please make sure they do not end up in the pivot system, that would be awesome. Now, the next improvement I wish for is improvement on the finish of hardware such as scratches and consistency. Now, mainly I'm talking about the pin for the standoffs that the screws thread into, like these three right here, and also the lock bar stabilizer. Now, this is a custom that I was taking apart today that I had just received, and these pins right here are finished just the way I like it. A very nice satin finish, no scratches, but the lock bar stabilizer is something else. If that could be improved, that would be greatly appreciated. Now, these pins and lock bar stabilizers come in different finishes depending on the knife. Now, this knife was bought brand new, and the pins have a very nice satin finish or Scotch-Brite finish, but it has pretty deep scratches, as you can see. If it didn't have those scratches, I would say that's perfect. And this one, you can see obvious machine marks on the pins, but the lock bar stabilizer has a perfect satin finish on it. Now, I'm going to go over some other Hinderers I have and pay attention to the finish on the pins and the lock bar stabilizer. It varies on each knife. And on some knives, like this one, the finish is different on different pins. See, the one in the middle is slightly polished, and the first one is a matte finish. And something else, very small really, is the finish on the thumb studs. This thumb stud is finished nicely, but on this one, it's finished differently. That one's polished, and that one's kind of scratched up. And on each thumb stud, it's pretty much different, although not really important except for the nicks and dings. Like on that thumb stud, it has a pretty big ding on it. It just varies on every knife, even when bought brand new. And I like the way your screws are finished on each XM18. They're finished very brightly, but sometimes some of them have really deep scratches directly from the factory. So if you could sort the screws out that have scratches and you could just have them refinished easily, that would be cool too. And my last request is for the finish on the standoffs. If you could polish them, that would be awesome. This is a Chris Reeve on, and all Chris Reeves come with highly polished hardware like screws and standoffs, and if you could match that, that would be really cool. You can see these screws always come with a nice Scotch-Brite finish with no scratches on them. You see the Sabenza, even though this is used, the screws come all looking the same, very nicely finished. You see the pivot hardware has nice machine lines with no scratches from the factory. The thumb studs do not have scratches on them. Now I know Chris Reeve holds the highest level of manufacturing quality, and I think every knife manufacturer should try to match Chris Reeve the best they can. And these are very simple fixes that I think Hinderer could nail easily. Alright, now I want to talk about tolerances. If you could make the pivot sit inside the blade tang a little tighter, that would match Chris Reeve's tight tolerances. Now the Chris Reeves on, the pivot sits very tightly inside the pivot, resulting in zero blade play or movement, and there's just a slight amount of wiggle when you put the pivot inside the blade tang, and you can wiggle it around a little. That though it's no big deal, it's just an improvement that could be made. I'm not sure if it would be easy on your end or worth it, but it would definitely add some value to your folders. Alright, now I want to talk about lock bar tension. Each and every single Hinderer I have, and I have over 10 of them now, each of them have an up and down glitch. I'm not sure what it is. It's not lock rock. I'm not really sure what it is. I think it's the thumb stud. Is when you wiggle it, the thumb stud comes off one of the sides, either this side or that side. It comes off, and when you let go, you feel it lifting off. I'm not sure if you can hear it. Let's try another one. Let me turn off the... Alright, I turned off the autofocus so it's a little quieter in here. I'm going to put this up to the microphone. You hear that? It's a little bit of wiggle. Not sure what it is. Try it on this one. Hear it better on that one. Not going to try it on my custom. Let's try the XM24. Yeah, you can hear that. Now if you can figure out what that is, that would definitely add value to your folders. I think it's just a very minor glitch, something that may have been overlooked. It might not even be a design flaw. It's just something that could be changed to improve upon. Now it does not affect the performance of the knife. Your lockup is still rock solid. It's just it could be slightly better. I mean, all Chris Reeve knives come with rock solid lockup. There's no movement up and down. There's no wiggle in the pivot. I know it's going to be hard to match Chris Reeve's bank vault lockup, but you gotta start somewhere. Now the next thing I want to talk about is lock bar tension. Almost every one of my 3-inch XM18s have a different amount of lock bar tension. This one being the lightest amount. This is ridiculously light. It is very easy to push over. I mean, I'm not too sure about using this knife with that very small amount of tension. Do not do spine whack tests, but I think if I were to try that on this knife, it would fail. It's just very easy to push that over. And this one has pretty good amount of tension. This one is the hardest of all of them. This one is very hard to push over, which is the way I think all of them should be. I may have just gotten a defect on this one, because it just takes a feather amount to push over. And yes, both of these 3-inch XM18s were bought brand new from an authorized retailer. So there's no possibility that a previous owner could have taken the knife apart and adjusted the lock bar tension. Alright guys, that is it. Thank you for listening to me complain and nitpicking about these small things, but I think that Hinderer is like the next best thing, even though it's been around for a while. There are some improvements that could be made, and I think that these small improvements would get the Hinderer knife closer to winning some manufacturing quality awards like Chris Reeve. And I think that if these improvements were made and maintained, Hinderer Knives would soar higher than the competition, which in my opinion is Chris Reeve Knives. And XMs already have CRK beat in the ergonomic, strength, and price category. And these small complaints are not deal breakers for me. If these improvements never happen, I'll still continue to purchase Hinderers because of the vast amount of blade steels, blade lengths, shapes, and grinds, and the ability to modify the way they look, like the standoff and clip colors, the scale colors and materials like titanium, carbon fiber, G10, and the finish of the standoffs and pins can easily be put in a drill and spun with a piece of ultrafine Scotch-Brite to meet my standards of visual appeal. So I can easily fix these the way I want them to look. So no big deal on that. I thank you for taking the time to watch my video, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. See ya.